Hi everyone, I wanted to do my John Maxwell, and I'm doing chapter 3, Reality, the Foundation of Learning. I'm just going to go through the first couple of points on the 3 realities of life, and then I'll do the next 3 tomorrow. So the 3 realities of life, John Maxwell gives the example of a young lady, Charlene, who grew up in the war in 1942, and how her family had to hide. They split them up and they were hiding with farmers. But then how her and her mother had to basically stay in a river because one day when they were coming back from a walk, they got accosted by Hitler's army. And they had to stay in this water for 4 days. And when she woke up one day, her mother was gone. So from there, she made her way to America and she got married and continued her life. And I think for all of us who have gone through wars, who have lived through wars as children, who have gone through life-threatening situations, we can let those situations make us better, or we can let them get us down. And what's happening to me is that if you go through too many difficulties and too many hardships, unless you have something like this and you have good friends and good people around you, you're going to land up being like an 80-year-old. You're going to land up losing your confidence, not seeing any joy in life, not seeing anything worth living for. And a few years ago, I listened to Archbishop Fulton Sheen, and I used to listen to his talks because they were very powerful, and they were about how life is worth living and finding the beauty in living, finding the joy in living. And it's the same with this John Maxwell. I think in North America, because we have so much available to us, people think life should be easier here than it is. But the reality is that it's not easy. Life is difficult, and life is difficult for everyone. Granted, there is inequality, and for some of us, life is harder than it is for other people. When it comes to life, it's not an even playing field. Some of us get discriminated against. Some of us have been born in Africa, so we are 100 steps or even 1,000 steps behind others in terms of life's opportunities and what's available. But we don't let us be defeated. We don't give up. We don't have a mentality that says that we're not going to build on the foundations that have been laid for us, because we know that we stand on shoulders of giants like Nelson Mandela and Stephen Biko. We know that there's good and evil in the world, and we know that life is going to be difficult. We don't expect it to be easy. So when we have that mindset, we look for ways to overcome things. We look for ways to think things through. Sometimes we don't always think things through, and that can lead to downfalls for us. It can lead to hardships for us. But most of us have a process that we follow for thinking things through. That's part of my journey. It's part of what I learned with the Jesuits in discernment. It's part of what we do with John Maxwell. We have processes that we follow for how we want to think things through. Like now with technology is changing. So most of the jobs that are coming up are going to be virtual jobs. They're going to be jobs that we can do to help the robots, because robots are taking over everything, whether it's AI or whether it's, having a robot, actual robot in your house doing your cleaning. You have those little robots that go on the floor. You don't even have to use your hand to move the vacuum cleaner. You just put it down on the floor and it vacuums everything, and then you empty the dirt or the dust that it's collected. So things are changing, but it also means that jobs are being taken away. So we have to look how we can work around and where we can apply our skills in different areas, whether it's through coordinating projects or helping to write those chatbots that are coming up, doing the research that will help to put the information into AI, which will then spew out the answers for people. Like now when we go on Google and we can press the microphone and say, what is the weather today? And Siri will answer you, or whatever robot it is, depending on which country you're in. So that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to look at alternatives of what I can do, what services I can provide, where I can develop my skills and use them, and how I can build on my foundation so that I don't lose my confidence. When I used to travel from Joburg to Harare, my trip used to take me 22 hours, but I was never frightened. I was never afraid on that bus going from Joburg to Harare or to Bulawayo. I used to sleep for most of the trip. We'd cross the border. We used to stop in Mutare. There was a lovely little inn there where they had the giraffe. The giraffe used to come and stand by your table while you were eating or having your coffee or whatever. So I miss those days. I miss doing those kinds of trips on my own. And I used to enjoy them. I never even used to want to go back. I used to want to stay in Joburg, but I couldn't because the residents did not allow us to stay during our holidays, because I wanted to see more of South Africa, explore it a bit more, but I didn't get those opportunities, so I used to go home. But that's how confident I was. And even traveling through Europe, I traveled on my own a lot. I did a lot of different day trips within England. I did a lot of traveling on the tube, on cheap air flights. I never worried about that. And there was no one to call to say I've arrived or I've left or whatever. So it was never a big deal for me. So obviously here I feel claustrophobic if I have to call somebody and say, oh, I arrived now, I got home. But there's so many problems in the country at the moment that that's what we do, because it's like we're living in a war zone. So when I go to see my mom, like I did for Christmas or just after Christmas, once I get back, I'll message her to say that I'm home now. Or when I'm leaving, I'll message them to tell them that I'm on the train now, so that they know they can come and meet me, because there's no bus to go to where they live. Otherwise, if there was, I would just catch a bus and go there directly, and a taxi is too expensive. So they don't mind. They come and they pick me up. But we were very confident living in Africa, and we enjoyed it. We enjoyed going to Inyanga, to Kariba, to Victoria Falls. We went to a lot of different places, Bumi Hills, Mutare. We used to get in the car and go with my mom. And unfortunately for me, because I've earned so little money in Canada, I couldn't even get my license because I had to be realistic. So for me, the most important thing was to buy a home first, and to buy a home in a nice location, and then complete my studies. Then I said, okay, then I'm going to get my driver's license. Unfortunately, life threw me curveballs, so I've landed up completely penniless, living off debt, working in minimum wage. So what am I doing? I'm upgrading my skills. I'm looking for different opportunities. I've renewed my HRPA dues. I'm going to as many webinars as I can, both for my Catholic faith and for HR courses. I'm doing my John Maxwell. So I'm not just going to sit back and say, oh, well, I'm just going to let everybody else decide what's best for me. I'm not willing to do that, because I wouldn't have come this far. It does get too much, and you do land up being like an 80-year-old. You'll end up feeling like, you know what, everybody keeps telling me, look at your hair's gone long, or look how you dress, or look at this, look, you've gone fat, you put on so much weight. It all gets to you eventually, and you lose your confidence. So that's why for me, I don't focus on what people are saying. I focus on my own life and my own journey. Even in the church, I do what I can, but there's always going to be people talking. Oh, you didn't put the Holy Communion in your mouth fast enough. Or you didn't do this, you didn't do that. I'm like, you know what? We adults, focus on your own life. Because if you're focusing on me and what I'm doing in the church, then why are you coming to the church? So that's what I do. And I'm also focusing on my own health. I was upset yesterday when I saw the fires in California, and I had an upset stomach because I know how fast the fires spread here when we had our fires, and they were advisories on the air we breathe and all that. So it is a worry because we do have family in California. And so I made myself a nice essential oil, and I mixed my fractionated coconut oil with the calendula oil, and I added my lavender, bergamot, and ylang ylang to help me. And so I know how to take care of myself, and it's not always easy. It's not always like I think of things right away, but I'm a normal person. The things that upset me upset everybody, and the things that hurt me hurt most people. I was also reading, I have Federer's book, which I've been reading very slowly. I only do 2 or 3 pages, but they were just talking about how all the team members, all the tennis players become friends. And I think that's good because we were all friends when we were growing up in Zimbabwe. We competed with our friends, our brothers, our sisters, because we were friends, but when we stepped onto the court or when we stepped onto the athletics field, we were competitors. And it's a good way to be. I think it's a good way to be and a good way to learn. Because when you're on that competitive field, you're friends, but you're also competing to win that prize. And all of us are competing in this life, whether it's to get that job or to get that next opportunity. We're helping each other, but we're also competing on our teams, because not everybody wins those awards I used to win at Teleperformance for Employee of the Month or gets those high scores. And the things that are out of my control, people can't blame me for that. If the call takes 30 minutes to 40 minutes because the customer doesn't want to put the phone down, that's not my fault. And if they give me a bad rating because their product didn't come, that's not within my control. So things like that, the scores do go down. And people don't see that, whoever's doing the evaluation. They have to go back, they have to listen to the call, they have to see, was this really Belinda's fault? Or is it something that was out of her control? So sales jobs are not easy. But so far, so good. I've done okay. And I'm willing to keep learning and growing. And you do get hurt when you come from a different culture and you come into the North American culture. You do get hurt by the things people are saying to you, by the things people are telling you. And that's why it's important to have circles like I have with my John Maxwell, with the friends I keep in touch with from my childhood, university friends. I have different circles of friends that I can reach out to, that I can talk to, and who can help me to stay confident. Because you'll end up losing your confidence here, especially if you've gone through years and years and years of unemployment, of financial hardship, of doing everything right and getting rotten results. It's very disheartening. It's very disheartening, and you lose your confidence. You're like, what more do you need me to do for you to actually keep me on the team, or to give me a few weeks extra so I can go on a long trip, or to have some accommodation for my health? Like, what more is it that you want of me? And so those are the things that I'm dealing with, that a lot of us are dealing with. And we don't want to be treated like children. We don't want to be tracked everywhere we go, everywhere, everything we do. Get followed, get tracked, how much we're spending. We're not children. We can make our own decisions. If we were able to survive Africa, which has 100 times less opportunities, electricity, education, everything that people have here, then why can't we be successful here? Because we're doing all the right things, and it's not fair to hold us back and to keep putting us down because we don't think like you. And these are people who are sitting on boards and everything, but most of them have never left Canada. They've never left. They never left the United States. They never left Canada. So they don't know what it's like to have worked in London or have worked in England or have worked in different parts of Africa. So they think they're better than you. But actually, you're coming to the table asking for help, and all they're doing is putting you down. So yes, it does hurt. But we adjust and we grow and we say, okay, that's how you want it, then we change. But when it comes to our values and our ethics and our religion, we don't compromise on those things. Because the countries that are suffering, all these countries like Iran and all the countries where people are fighting for human rights, we went through that. We went through that in our own countries, and we're not willing to give it up. We're not willing to be told that you're Christian and you're Indian, so you can't come to the church on Sunday and sit in the front. And there's a mass for you at a different time to the whites because you are not white. We're not willing to have that, or to be told, oh, you can't have Good Friday off because you have more than enough people on your teams that you could accommodate us and swap us. But you're just not willing to do it. And in the end, your companies are the ones that are going to suffer for it. Because you're making us suffer, but when enough people suffer like is happening in Canada now, then everything has to start changing, isn't it? Because enough people are in my position now, what I've been going through since coming to this country, that the companies actually have to start changing. And they're bringing in the laws. They're bringing in the laws for salary disclosures, for making sure people get accommodation for disabilities, for making sure people get accommodation for what they need. With us, we just get told, oh, well, there's no job, we're going to lay you off. But when it starts happening to you, and it starts happening to your family, and you start feeling the pain, then you'll have to think about what you did to me and what you did to my family. Because what goes around comes around. And that's just the reality. Life is hard, but for some of us, life is harder than it is for others because of discrimination in North America and in Canada.